Hey!
Wow.
That was scary.
Wow. I cannot believe that worked.
Except your name tag says Tim Milley.
I mean, I don't think it does. I think it says Timothy Miller. You just couldn't say
Oh, okay. That makes me feel a little bit better. I thought you were Tim Milley.
Look, it's Monday. We're here together for what may be one of the only Mondays all summer.
It's going to be a busy summer, guys.
It's going to be a very, very busy summer. We've had an eventful week. Andrew, did I tell you? I got invited over to Frank's house before you.
I mean, at one point, he asked me if I wanted to come over and build Legos with him, but then I went to Scotland.
I mean, of course, I was the last person at Lakeview to get the invite, but at least I got it before you.
That's very true. Hey, yesterday was Sunday.
And this is the morning after.
Welcome to the Morning After Ministry Show, a caffeine-fueled look back on the week and ministry that was.
In all fairness, I have not had Frank over to my house yet either. So, Frank, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought about this morning not having you to my house, but rather being like, hey, you get up early and you drive to, Pinellas County from very, very far away where you live. You should meet me at the coffee shop on the beach that I always go to.
Oh,
that'd be nice.
But one of these days.
Yeah, tell me about this coffee shop.
It's my
right now I just go to the Starbucks on Main Street.
Well, it's probably 35 minutes from here still. So
but if it's on the beach.
It's on Indian Rocks Beach. It's my favorite coffee shop on the
What's the
planet.
name of it?
It's Grove Surf Cafe.
Have we been?
We have not to be confused with the Grove Surf and Coffee Company, which is their sister shop, which has still not reopened after the hurricanes. But Cole, who was one of my students who did mission trips with us and stuff, he is the general manager there. It's the best coffee shop on the planet. I know what we're talking about at lunch now. This is great. This has nothing to do with ministry, but I did think this morning I should get up early and be like, hey, Frank, you should come try an orange vanilla latte. And I didn't. I'm sorry. Soon and very soon.
Andy, I know I joke about being the last to get invited over to Frank's house, but I will say Frank has done such a good job of just opening his home, getting people in, showing some hospitality. Like, we walked in and they were ready for us. Like, the food was ready. He used his 3D printer to print out minifigs and all sorts of fun things for my kid, like fidgets and everything. All three of my kids that went, the older two were out of town. But like, we all came home like tired, full. It was fun. Like, we just had a good time hanging out. They busted out all the Legos that were a mess and had us just attempt to put Legos back together. Frank and Corey are obviously way better at Lego than my family, but it was fun.
My family Lego is pretty hard. We're Lego people. Yesterday was a birthday for one of my kids.
Is the morning after.
Yes.
Yesterday was perfect.
And we had boys going to the Bricks and Minifigs store.
Love that place.
And yeah, it's we spend way too much money on Legos in my house.
Hey, chat, do you play with Legos? Let us know. This content's weird.
This is a weird show. It's been a weird look. My brand new bazillion-dollar microphone broke.
Holding a mic.
Andrew's all sassy. Like, listen.
Listen, y'all. It's been a rough day already.
Speaking of the week in ministry that was, Frank and I just wrapped up a solid month.
Maytastic.
Back in youth ministry. Frank, you and I, we co-led Maytastic. You've got one more week in student ministry land. So thoughts, highs, lows, how has it been? But I mean, I can tell you, side by side, youth ministry bros, like, we've been like kind of like the frat bros of youth group for the last month. Sorry, Andrew. That used to be us.
I know, but I got a text message Wednesday night from a Lakeview person of Frank just singing.
If you send me that video, I might be able to show it.
So
No. Why don't you?
yeah. So someone.
Why don't you send me that?
Someone
angle?
sent it to me and
Frank
said, "You need to know that this exists."
He got wild.
A 15 or 16-year-old took a video, sent it to her mom, and then the mom sent it to me and said, "You need to know what's happening at youth group at Lakeview." So it's an interesting thing. Now, Lakeview historically has done something called Maytastic.
Yes.
Where every month or every week in the month of May, there's like something like new and exciting. So you have talent show,
We had
like
Water
Water Wars
Wars,
and stuff. So you're
Board game night.
so you guys were back leading youth ministry, but you weren't doing like a series.
We're like grandparents. We just get to like have fun with.
You're doing the fun part of youth ministry.
Correct.
I'm actually teaching this Sunday.
Okay.
Wednesday.
This Wednesday.
Frank's doing a real youth group, but last week Frank was not doing a real youth group because it looked a little something like this. I'll turn our mics on so we can provide commentary over the top of this.
But we can't actually hear the video.
Oh, they can.
But they can.
We could if we turned the mic on. I just don't want it to echo.
I think he's a great singer.
Look, it's fantastic.
He is. I showed my wife that video, and she said, "Andrew, there's a lot of things that Frank does better than you. Singing is not one of them."
I am not a good singer. Never have been.
Yeah, but you're a great dancer.
Oh my gosh.
I think I'm.
I can't get off the screen now.
You are a great dancer.
That's my go-to. Do you guys ever go to? Do you guys do karaoke ever?
I have so many go-to karaoke
go-to
songs.
karaoke song?
One from that same era, also boy band, "Girl on TV" by LFO.
LFO.
Also, 2 of the 3 members of LFO are dead.
What?
It's very sad.
Why are you?
Very, very sad.
Episode got so depressing.
Also, this I realize that this is
yes,
not.
Bree, including the dance moves.
Also, is this gonna get flagged and taken down?
Possibly.
No, because your singing will definitely make RCA Records say, "Nope, we do not own that." I don't.
I told my wife when I got home, I said I had so many ideas and thoughts running through my head as you were on stage, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna let Frank have his moment here. So I opted not to do any of my routines. Also because my kids were in the room, and I'm like, you know what? Frank is really funny. They don't need Tim to right now. Like let Frank have this moment.
I did feel like when I first started doing that song, it was like a hard crowd. Like I felt like the kids were just like
They got into it though.
because I mean, kids are brutal, man. Like,
They
we
are.
were at a talent show, and there was like these kids out there that were like being really bold, and like one girl did art, another kid literally just did like stand-up comedy.
How was he? How many minutes?
He was
It was
reading
hilarious.
books. He was reading books.
Okay.
But it was
Dad
fun.
jokes book. It was funny.
There was like just different kinds of things. Someone singing a musical. It was just all like different stuff. And like kids were just like being brutal. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do something to try to shake it up. And I did it. And in the first like 30 seconds, they were like not interested. But I think they came around towards
They
the end.
did. Everybody busted their phones out. They're laughing and clapping. It was good.
I just want you to know that my my other go-to karaoke song is not appropriate anymore because it's "Missing You" by Puff Daddy, Faith Evans, and 116.
It's not 116. 116 is Reach Records.
Well, that was it. Who is it? 112? Who's like that's
I
that,
did-
like they? There's just guys like
three-
there's like there's
What are you saying?
there's a number
made
band.
noises.
That's what they do in the background of that song. They're the ones like chanting behind Faith.
What?
It's
Guys, City Lights Church just
no.
invited
That's
us.
you're looking at every move I make. That's Sting. You want "Missing You"? I'll be missing you.
112.
112.
This
Okay.
is irrelevant.
Oh,
Okay,
do
go
not show
ahead.
that. Look, we got
kinda
invited to a
hard
dinner
with you
party.
not
The
around.
dinner party's going to be in Scranton.
No, you're in heaven, smiling down,
City Lights just got. Oh, they have a nice flat screen TV. We could watch.
watching us as we pray for you.
Well, he said his wife might try to sell us some scented candles.
Every day we pray for you.
Youth ministry was fun. The past 4 weeks have been really interesting. Like I definitely feel like the students are like different. It's a different generation.
Oh,
than when I
it
was
is.
It's so
professor.
different.
I was having a conversation with because I am our acting youth pastor and have been for 2+ years with no plans of that changing in the future. But I was talking to one of the youth group dads who I've known the entire 8 years
Jared.
I've been here, and it was, I said 2012, 2013. First of all, every 6th grader in the youth group had Instagram. Which was like do you remember the Instagram hack DYM game?
Yeah.
Because there was no kid in middle or high school that because their parents didn't have social, so it was like the Wild West, and the kids did. But also, I had every kid's phone number.
Me too.
And that made I was telling this dad who has one girl in middle school and one girl in high school, and I was like, I would feel so weird texting your kids.
Yeah.
But the world of youth ministry has changed, and part of that is I think being in my 40s compared to being in my late 20s when I started at my previous church. But
Bree,
The
you would
world
be
has changed.
surprised. This is the age of millennial parents, so we are all of the boy band genre and age, which means all of our kids have grown up listening to this. So you'd be surprised the amount of teenagers that actually know the bulk of Backstreet Boys.
My
and
kids-
catalogs. My kids know the bulk of the songs.
My
because of
kids,
us.
because of public school PE right down the street, they play, like, the PE teachers are our age, and so they play pop music from the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yep.
And that's how my kids know those songs, because they're just always blaring it's either the Kids Bop version of current songs or the late 90s pop music is what's played at PE.
My favorite is when I'm playing a song in the car and my oldest daughter says, "Oh, Dad, what song is that?" And then she adds it to her playlist. I'm like, "Let's go."
Let's go.
I was literally playing the Ataris yesterday, and she
Nice.
added it. I'm like, "That's what I'm talking about."
Oh, this is completely off topic, but it has to do with ministry that was yesterday.
Yep.
Yesterday was Sunday?
And today's morning after. I was sitting
So close.
behind Tim's family yesterday
That's
during the
scary.
third service.
That's scary.
And
Somebody
your
cut one.
middle daughter was sitting like directly in front of me,
Zoe.
and you made a comment in your sermon that said like, when the Bible repeats itself, you should underline it, you should highlight it because it wants you to, God wants you to know about this. And I saw her highlight a verse in her Bible.
Frank, that melts my heart.
And I was like, oh, because like your kids could absolutely just disengage and not pay attention to the sermon.
I would.
And for her to be like, I'm highlighting that. I was like, this is so good. I was like, that was sweet. That's good youth ministry.
That was a good moment right there.
Yeah.
That one moment.
I had my oldest quoted something I said in the sermon to me later to like prove a point and get something. I was like, oh crap, you were paying attention, because
That's the best.
my wife was in Kidsman yesterday, and my parents, who my kids usually sit with if mom is not in here, my parents are out of the country. So I had my 15-year-old and my 13-year-old as unaccompanied minors in church yesterday, and apparently they were paying attention. That's a scary, scary thought.
Andrew, since we're all back in youth ministry land for a season, it's also graduation time, which is a very special time in youth ministry.
I went to a grad party Friday night, and
Yeah.
it was awesome.
Good.
There was a zip line.
We've been to a lot of boring grad parties.
I've been to so many boring grad parties. This was not one. There was a zip line. There was a lemonade bar. So it was like just like regular like Publix lemonade, but then they had like the Moem like coffee syrups or whatever. So there are 5 or 6 different syrups you could put in your lemonade, and then strawberries, lime, raspberries, and
That sounds
stuff.
awesome.
So it was really cool. The food was good.
Guys, real quick, that kid out there on the bike is wearing a youth group T-shirt.
For sure.
He has a cross in the back of it. It's like the name of the youth group. What church is that?
Can't see it.
What church do you think it is if it's in the area that has a cool youth group?
I'm gonna guess Countryside.
Countryside.
Youth.
Okay.
Yeah,
That was a cool shirt.
That is a really cool
Shout out to
shirt.
Countryside Youth.
they have a good like all of their shirts at Countryside
Yeah.
are really good.
Good. That was
And
nice.
whoever the youth pastor is, if you're watching, we're gonna rip that shirt idea because that's a cool shirt. That's a cool shirt.
Also, we're in the worship center at Safety Harbor. And we're surrounded by 2 sides on windows here, and there's a group of
Similar to Lakeview.
12-ish year old boys on bikes, and one of them is on a powered bike.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
Doing very dangerous.
He's wearing like a dirt bike helmet to do wheelies.
Andrew, we did a
On a brick
traditional
road.
graduation Sunday yesterday, which I know not a lot of churches do anymore. We have a lot of fun with it. We invite our grads up. We show some embarrassing photos. Todd says a few words. Todd's our youth pastor. And I've kind of had this thought of like, is this something we want to keep doing?
Yes.
And then I looked around the room and I saw so many first timers there to see their grad.
Yeah.
I'm like, why would we not do that?
Actually, okay, I was thinking about this, and this is actually, if you're in ministry and you're watching this is actually a really good tip. Schedule moments in your preaching calendar where you know it's going to be a lower Sunday to have these kind of like bringing in moments. So like, this is why, you do baptisms not on Easter Sunday, but like a
Correct.
week or 2 after Easter Sunday,
Right.
because there's usually a dip. So make people come back by coming to baptism, right? Having Grad Sunday the first week of June, when you had the potential of it dipping because it's summer, was actually great because you had all those families and friends of families that want to come to church. It
was awesome.
That's actually like, I don't know if that was like intentional for the church calendar, but like,
It just worked out that way.
you were talking about before service, like we shouldn't have these numbers, at this time of the year. And I think it's because there was an intentional moment of having
Did you do this at all 3 services?
Nope.
Did you ask the grads to stick
Just
around?
the 11.
Okay.
That has been the tricky part with 3 services. What do we do at all 3 as opposed to is this just
Because if you were doing 2, you could do it at the end of one, the beginning of the other, or something like that. But
that would have worked. We just did the 11. We do this with baby dedications as well. Some churches will do them all on one Sunday the year. We choose to separate them out and do 1 or 2 families at a time because again, it builds in those special moments. And every time we do a baby dedication, I'm just telling you, like 2 rows of their families show up. So it's one of those really special Sundays too.
I love it.
So what else did you guys do for your grads here at Safety Harbor?
We did. So we had 2 grads.
2?
We had,
That's a
but
big deal.
here's the thing. But neither one of them grew up here. They were never. They were
Neither
never.
one wanted to go.
No, they are. One is a family who is newish, and one is like a blended or a split family that he has not been here in a month or so. So I went to the grad party and celebrated the one grad that I was invited to the party for, and that was it. Now, in a couple of years, we'll have kids that have like been here since we've been here and have come up all the way through, and then we'll have, I think next year is our last really lean year, and then we'll have bigger classes every year going forward. But you have to remember that when we got here, there were 2 kids.
Yeah.
So we have not had a huge tradition of grads. We've had years in between graduates at times.
Well, congrats to the grads of Safety Harbor Community Church.
We're very proud of them both.
All of you grads out there, huge shout out.
Now, did you honor college grads as
We used
well?
to.
I was
Didn't this year. We used to do college and high school. At the same time.
being at the Lutheran church a couple weeks ago. Then at their end of the year chapel, I was sitting in their narthex, which is the fancy high church word for lobby, watching their announcement slides on a TV, and they had the college grads and everybody, but it was kind of interesting because it was, hey, this is the grandkid of so and so. So it's like, oh, that kid doesn't actually worship here, but it's a smallish church, and
I did
they
feel
wanna
kind of bad.
celebrate.
There were other graduates in the room that weren't on stage because we're basically honoring the grads
From youth group. Yeah.
That's what it was. I know. I looked around. I was like, oh, we missed a few, but I was like, but they don't go to youth group, so it's kind of hard.
I get it.
Yeah.
I
This
get
is
it.
why churches don't do it anymore.
Because you've got the kids that have been going to youth group at the other church, or aren't, or chose to play travel baseball instead of being involved in youth group, and so I get it.
It
But
gets tricky.
you're not going to make everybody happy, but you made those families that you got to honor very, very happy.
It was very special, and now we're headed really into the thick of these summer months in ministry land. So, Andy, walk us through your schedule. You were kind of telling us your travel schedule. I'm like, are you avoiding Sundays? Are you preaching all summer?
No, I'm only gone one Sunday,
But you're gone a lot.
but I'm gone a lot. Yeah,
Interesting. So
I'm
you're just going to
doing
be sermon prepping from airplanes and
Yep.
cars and random coffee shops in other states.
cruise ships. Yeah, we're doing. Melissa and I are going to New York in a week and a half. June.
New York.
That's the one.
That is it.
That's where we're going. And then I have a denominational conference that you guys are skipping. Let's be real. Frank didn't actually know about it. And
I have a
then
delegate going.
you have a delegate going who's been worshiping here. And we are, so Melissa and the boys are going to Arkansas ahead of me because I'll be at that conference. Then I'm going to Arkansas. We come home, and then we're going on a cruise. So I'm only out one Sunday, but
This is why we're not going to continue the podcast all summer.
Yes, but I have there are 4 Mondays at least that I will not be here or connected to Wi-Fi. So we'll try to, we should have like very special episodes, like the Star Wars holiday special kind of thing where we just parachute in, hey.
You could do one from the road.
I think that'd be great.
Nothing wrong with that.
I think it'd be wonderful. We can make it happen.
Frankie, are you traveling a lot this summer?
Yeah, he's a world-renowned camp speaker.
How many camps are you speaking at this year?
I'm speaking. It's the same camp, just in 2 different locations. I'm speaking at CIY.
One church, 2 locations.
Yeah, exactly. One in Chicago.
Multi-site camp.
One in Chicago, and which is gonna be fun because my old church, Epicos, the student ministry goes to that camp. So it's
sweet.
a fun one.
That'd be a good reunion.
And then one in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and that's gonna be really fun. And then I'm also speaking at a church in Odessa, Texas, on a Sunday. That's like West Texas.
That's very west.
So
Not to be
random.
confused with West Texas, because there's
That's
a
different.
town in Texas named West Texas,
Yeah.
which is by Waco, which is nowhere near
Yeah.
Odessa, Texas.
Yeah.
Odessa, Texas, you're going to go see the Permian Panthers. You're going to do all the that's Friday Night Lights, like the
yeah, of
original
course.
Friday Night Lights,
Yes,
the
yes,
like
yes.
the true story is
Which I just
Odessa.
showed my son for the first time 2 weeks ago. Claimed it was one of his all-time favorite movies.
It's fantastic. Tim McGraw going bald on purpose.
So good.
So I'm speaking out there.
There's a guy in that movie whose name is,
Oh, I'm aware.
yeah.
Did you
It's
sense
funny.
that?
Yeah, I muted it. Don't worry.
Okay. I'm speaking out there, and that's gonna be a good time. And if City Lights Church wants me to come out to Scranton to promote my church plant, would love to do that.
City Lights Church, Frank would happily come and
To the Electric City.
speak with your congregation
Yeah.
about what's happening down here in sunny FLA.
I think it would be fantastic.
Yeah. So so 3 so far speaking opportunities. Actually, it's not true. I'm also speaking at a church.
In Tarpon Springs, Florida.
I think you're only preaching once this summer in Lakeview, right?
Woo.
In June.
Must be nice cashing checks, not showing up.
Yeah.
The life of a church planner. My goodness, how do you get that gig? Are you guys hiring?
It's a once in a lifetime opportunity.
I guess so, man.
Hope you're enjoying this season, Frank.
I'm enjoying it.
That's the conversation that Frank and I had before you got here this morning. This is like the last stretch of life where Frank is not preaching, 45 Sundays a year for the rest of his life. It's an odd thing.
Well, I'm enjoying the time I have right now.
You should. You should.
Our student ministry is hitting up a different camp this year.
I heard.
I'm excited for them, and it's almost because one of my kids was like, "Well, Dad, when you became the youth pastor, did you switch camps too?" And I said, "Yes, I did."
Yep.
Like that. That's kind of a rite of passage for the youth
The
pastor.
youth pastor gets to choose the camp.
to get to choose the camp and to see what works for their crew of students. We had a great run with Student Life Camp. Here's the bummer this year, though. One of my students, who's now in college, is now working for Student Life Camp. She texted me last week and said, "Tim, so bummed you couldn't be here this summer with us because they put me in charge of seating assignment. I would have given you guys front row dead center every single night." Woo! Ouch!
I mean, is it too late?
Ouch!
Is it too late to make a pivot?
Which location, which city was the student life camp you guys would go to?
We would go to the wilderness at the Smokies in
So good.
Like Northern Georgia?
Pigeon Forge, Tennessee.
Do you remember?
Oh, sorry. Sevierville, Tennessee.
Yes.
Sevierville. Sorry.
Do you remember when
Sevierville.
we used to go to high school camp and get trained by Reggie Joyner while our kids were in a session? That was great.
Can we not talk about that?
It was so.
I'm
It was
still
such a
little hurt
good camp.
by all that?
And remember how cheap it was at first?
Okay, the last year of that camp was awful.
Well, I didn't go the last year.
It was awful.
Well, when I was a youth pastor in Tampa, we take our kids to student life also.
Student life has always been great,
Orange
though.
Beach, Alabama is where we went.
Yep, we did Daytona a few years ago. We did Daytona for middle school, then high school got to go to Tennessee.
But this year, the youth group is going to somewhere in the Carolinas.
I think they're going close to Myrtle Beach.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know much about the camp, but hey,
There's a couple
Again.
churches in the area that are going.
oh, there's quite a few.
Yeah.
Rite of passage for the youth pastor to choose the camp,
I love
so
it.
by all means.
And if it fails, we'll learn. but it might be great.
It's going to be awesome.
gonna be
It
awesome.
could
I told my kids, it's going to be
Listen,
awesome. You're going to have a ton of
it's
fun.
not like he's trying to take people to an RV park that also has a campground to put on his own camp.
Did you do that? Who did that?
Keep going.
We'll tell you that story at lunch.
I want to hear about that.
We will tell you that story at lunch.
Oh, what a disaster. It wasn't me.
Also, those RV parks up by Lando Lakes, none of them have nudist resorts attached.
Brittany,
Except
we
that
are
some of them do.
stoked You are going. Brittany's one of our leaders in Lakeview Student Ministries. She is pumped for camp. She's not sure about sleeping on a dorm mattress. Yes, they
Oh.
are. They are going to be in dorms,
Oof.
which is a step down.
Which
from
is
the wilderness
different
at the
than
Smokies,
resorts.
which was a resort with an indoor-outdoor water park.
I love water parks.
I'm a big fan. Well, Andy, what do you got going on this summer as far as teaching, preaching calendar?
So-
are you working through a series?
Yes, we are in Ephesians right now, which will take us through the end of June. And then beginning in July, I think we're going to start like a chapter a week, not quite verse by verse, but chapter by chapter series through the book of John. and we might. I'm right now. I'm trying to decide if we're going to expand on it a little bit and kind of get up to Holy Week and hit pause for.
So you're asking for all 55 manuscripts of my Gospel of John series.
Sure, I could if I could condense them to maybe 25 or 30. So I'm trying to decide if I want to do the entire Book of John before we get to Advent, or if I want to
Before
do
Advent.
or that's
You're
what I'm
gonna be
saying.
rushing.
If I'm doing chapter by chapter instead of verse by verse.
Some lend itself well to chapter by chapter. I think you're going to have to split a little.
So that's kind of where I'm at. Do I want to take a break? And now keep in mind the longest series we've ever done was, I think I did 30 total weeks in Acts.
I've got 60 manuscripts for you.
That's more than
60.
I would use, but yeah, drop that file. And I also am like, should I split this into I don't want to use the same graphics for 60 weeks in a row. Is that
What a dumb problem.
no? But I don't think
Nobody cares.
I think
Nobody cares.
no. I think
Except you.
I care, but also
I'm sick of our 1 Corinthians graphics, but you know what? No one else cares.
I think my thought is like the reason that you like choose graphics or whatever is because different senses create different memories, and my hope is I don't think anyone should ever be able to, I'm not naive enough to think that anybody will ever see a sermon graphic and be like, ooh, in this sermon Andrew said this, here was the takeaway. But if you are covering like a 6-week thing, and like in Ephesians right now, the series is called Walk the Walk, and my hope is that 2 years from now someone would see that graphic and remember that, you know, kind of the overarching 1-sentence summary of the sermon series. And so when you change up series by series graphics, then I'm hoping people will remember that 1 or 2 sentence takeaway every 6 weeks or 4 weeks. And so if you're doing 60 weeks in the Book of John, you can't actually do that.
Not so much. We're wrapping up 1 Corinthians end of June. Then we're doing a little mini series in July, August, doing we're doing some commonly misunderstood Bible verses, some verses that are routinely taken out of context, and then we will jump into Frank, you think this will probably be our longest series to date?
Exodus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're starting Exodus. There is a very real chance that Cross and Crown Church will already be well in full swing by the time we get through with Exodus. So
100%.
we will have to strategically plan out a few breaks, right? So Advent might be a break, Easter might be a break, maybe summer might be something else.
See, we did, I think I've done Exodus in 2 or 3 like 10-week series.
We've done that together.
Yeah, but not a verse by verse.
It's going to be a journey. Possibly a long one. I love this from City Lights Church. In the youth group I led in Maryland, we got stuck in a barn on old mattresses. Hopefully you guys are all on the same mattress for camp. It smelled like diesel from all the tractors that were stored there. That is
not a camp I would like to go to. I'm getting too old.
I don't know.
I'm getting way too old for stuff like that.
I don't know. So did we just not go to camp? Like, I guess we went to conferences.
See,
that's it. Like,
yeah.
took students.
We called it camp, but it wasn't camp.
It was glamping.
The camp that I grew up going to, the Wilds, where Tim's grandparents still go.
They know it well.
We had different options. One was called a birdhouse, which was like it looked like a birdhouse. So you had like 2 pieces of plywood on the floor, so that's 8 feet wide, and then they went out at an angle and up. And so we had, I think you could fit 8 people in a birdhouse, and then you had A-frame cabins, and then you had like the giant glamping tents where it was a deck that they put a giant tent over. That's where the boys stayed. The girls had air conditioning and running water and whatnot, but the boys had 2 outlets for ceiling fans and 1 overhead light in the entire cabin. That's and then had
miserable.
And yeah, now I'm like, why would I do that to myself? Yeah.
Like worst camp experience. Maybe the sessions were great, but the lodging not so much.
The worst I can remember is we did one kind of like short retreat here in Florida where we did like camping in a tent situation, and it like flash flooded, and so like we were like running to find cabins, and that was like a terrible. I remember sleeping in the car for a little bit of that time because it was such a bad experience. I'd say that like I prefer. I did a couple years of like campy camp where we were in cabins, but the best situation is either colleges,
College dorms, yeah.
College dorms are decent.
Because what you do is, if you're a leader, as like the main leader, you don't sleep in a dorm with another leader. You just get your own dorm and double stack those mattresses. Double stacking those little thin mattresses are great. Or doing the hotel, like the
resort style.
Yeah, that's to me the most fun. It's like you rent out a resort or a hotel, and you cram as many kids as you can into those rooms, and that's the way to do it.
We did so the cabins, or like we did like primitive beach camping at my previous church. I want to say like down by Sarasota, there's a state park where they have like cabins where there's no electricity, no water. Then there's like a bathhouse, and so that you can cook and you can do that. That's great for like a weekend long retreat thing. I don't know that I can do that for a week at this point.
Bree says my youth group went to camp upstate New York. Always slept in bunk beds in a cabin. Had to trek our way through the snow.
Ugh.
What is happening here? Through the snow?
That was in New York.
That was really good.
Where you're going,
guys? Are you missing?
A very different part of New York.
Frank,
I'm assuming.
You're going to camp this summer. You're speaking. Andrew, you're not going to youth
I'm not going to camp.
I'm not going to youth camp.
I'm not going to camp. We're old, Tim.
The youth pastor of Lakeview Church reached out and requested Frank and I to go, and we said
no.
We said no. My kid said, Dad, you promised that you weren't going this year, so I'm going to honor that commitment to my kids.
Your kids will be able to fall in love and have a very intense 5-day relationship, and then break up on cry night without you present.
It's so different with phones, Andy.
I know.
Like, you stay connected with people.
You don't have to break up on cry night anymore.
Tim, you met your wife while you were in youth group, right?
I did. She was at a different youth group.
Yeah. Were you with Melissa in high school?
No. She while I was in high school, or while she was in high school.
This is weird.
Listen, I was 19, she was 17. It's fine.
I remember I was on
It's fine, Frank.
I was on a missions trip where I met a girl from Texas. I fell in love with her on like the first day.
Odessa, Texas?
I think she's from DFW.
He doesn't remember.
I still know who she is, but like we were like dating for 3 days, and then we cried. And I was like, I promised to visit. Never saw that woman again. That was fun.
I don't know if you guys remember this, Andrew. I don't know if we were there, but I've heard this story. Matt says we're interviewing you guys at the NYWC. That's the National Youth Workers Convention, which we used to attend.
R.I.P. Last one ever was in Tampa.
Do you remember this? When the guy from Onstage shared about being locked in a trailer and jumping out with no clothes on and chasing his students. Oh, man. I will always remember that story and never not cringe that they actually shared that from stage.
Things have changed.
When I heard that story,
dude,
everybody was like, dude, this is not a story that you should be proud of.
No.
The world has changed so much because we would all be fired so quick.
I remember one of my youth pastors mooned me. It was normal. There was very, very different days back then.
I know a guy who...
I never behaved like that in student ministry.
I know a guy who was out of ministry for close to a decade for mooning a student.
I know a youth pastor who got fired for pantsing a kid.
And there was a lot of pantsing incidents at camp when I was a student.
I remember one very well.
This podcast is devolving into like, who do you know got fired?
No, I vividly remember a kid getting pantsed at camp. Fortunately, I was a volunteer, and I was not the one doing the pantsing, but I remember his horror.
Were you at this St. Louis one? Matt says, I remember people actually walking out.
Yeah, there were people, I think, if I remember correctly, they had to apologize about it. Like,
you were there, right?
Yeah, I think they apologized.
I remember them apologizing.
I was there.
The only one that I was ever at that was like, this is super awkward.
Remember
was
the onstage apology?
It was right after NYWC had been acquired by Zondervan, and so they had Jim and Tammy Faye Baker speaking because they had a book coming out.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, what? Why? And it was in Nashville, and so we were right by what is now Nissan Stadium.
Yes.
And there was a flyover for the football game, and he had like made several inappropriate comments about Muslims at that point, and the plane went over, and he was like, "Hope that's not Al Qaeda," and we were like, "Whoa!" Like,
oh my.
Yeah, that was that's the only time that I ever saw people walk out of this can't be real.
Well, there are people
session.
who are definitely like, that man should be in jail from this one.
And instead of being in jail, he's platformed in front of thousands of other youth pastors.
For real.
We could talk more and more about people that I think shouldn't have gotten the microphone at big conferences. That'd be a fun one.
Frank, that's actually where you and Matt Coyne met. How great is that?
Yeah.
And he didn't forget, and you did.
Yeah, that's when we met.
There's one time I was at NYWC in Atlanta and Sean King was a keynote speaker. That was awkward.
The football player or
No.
the
Twitter
Twitter guy?
the Twitter guy, back when he was pretending to be a pastor. He pretends about a lot of things.
What are we even talking about
Yeah.
anymore?
His ethnicity,
Guys,
his career.
Andrew has not eaten in a while. We're starving. You've got work to do. It's summertime. We'll
I'm
see
also
you
I
when
took
we
some
see
cold
you.
meds this morning. You know, I've got that. Yeah. I apologize for anything Tim has said. I realize it's been offensive.
We miss you already. I don't know when we'll see you again. At some point this
When
summer.
will I see you again?
we might never see you again. This might be the last episode.
We're probably
Hey.
getting canceled.
Hey, thanks for making it 297 strong. We tried to get to 300. It's just not happening.
Sorry, guys.
We'll see what
But
happens.
maybe in August we'll hit 300. That'd be great.
Hey, go get it done. Happy summer.
Bye, y'all.